welcome to the very first episode of the Inside Out podcast. I'm your host, Barbara Yolles Ludwig, and we're here to discuss Inside Out brand transformation, how to unearth and unleash the soul of your brand, revealing who you are on the inside, your culture, your people, your core values and your systems, and your brand DNA has the power to fuel your business exponentially. And today I am so thrilled to introduce our very first guest, Darius Mirshahzadeh, and I cannot think of a more appropriate first guest on my show because it just so happens that I was one of the very first guests on his podcast, The Greatness Machine, which is ranked in the top 5 of Apple podcasts. Darius is a culture-building leadership alchemist and serial entrepreneur who lives at the intersection of heart, purpose, and drive. He has built and sold companies from 3 people to 1,000, is ranked 40th on the Inc. 5000, and has often worked side by side as consultant to CEOs, architecting their core values and scaling businesses. And he literally wrote the book on it, The Core Value Equation. I'd like to start with a fun fact with people. It's just a thing I do pretty much every day. And so here's one of the most interesting people that you probably wouldn't know a fun fact about, but I'm going to, in this case, I'd normally ask Darius, but I'm going to ask Darius to respond to the fun fact that I'm going to share with you, which is this. Darius is a stalker.
Oh, I didn't know it was going this direction.
So Darius, would you like to share the story of how we met?
Yeah. So, I was Barbara's stalker for a couple years. So I was, first of all, thank you for having me on the show, Barbara. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited that you have a show. I think you're born for this, so it's gonna be amazing.
Thanks.
So yeah, I was the CEO of a large mortgage company called TMS. And Barbara and I, we're great friends now, and she knows this about me. I consider myself a marketer. I love marketing, and I was out and about, like, just looking at the great marketing in our business, which there's very little, especially this is like 2015, so it's 10 years ago. And I was like, God, there's this company out of Detroit that just freaking kills it with their marketing. They have such good marketing. It's UWM. And I'm like, oh my God, I love their marketing. I mean, I was just always gushing about their marketing. And then finally I was like, I wonder who their CMO is. And then I discovered it was Barbara. And so this is the beginning of the stalking. I'm like, man, that CMO. And I look, and I used to want to be in advertising. So I was aware of who all the big advertising agencies were. And I'm like, man, she had a big job at like McCann, and did all this other stuff. I'm like, oh my God, like, they have a really heavy hitter over there. Like, that's why their marketing is so good. So for the next 2 years, every time they put out a piece of marketing, I'd screenshot it, send it to my business partner. I don't even think you knew this. I was
did not know that. That is so funny.
Oh, I have it on my phone, Barbara. I could show you screenshots from 2015
oh my God.
2015 of like just different ads you guys would do. And I was like, oh my God, they're such good marketing. I'm like, it's just so creative and so smart. And so fast forward to January of 2017. So I'm stalking Barbara and her work for like years. I think I even reached out to her once and just like introduced myself, and she didn't respond because I was some random dude writing her on LinkedIn.
The stalker.
So fast forward to January of 2017. I just had this moment. The company was much bigger at this point, and I was like, we have to hire a real CMO. Like this is past the point of like we're there. And so it was a Friday. I had kind of an issue with who was running our marketing then. Like the work that they're a great person, but the quality of the work wasn't what I wanted. And I was like, I just need a real CMO. They should be telling me like what we need to do, not the other way around. And so I went home on Friday night and I crafted this like personalized email. And I was like, who are the top 5 CMOs? And it was like Barbara's like leagues above everybody else. And then there's a couple other that they had okay marketing. So I was like, well, she's my stretch goal. Like maybe I could try to get her attention. And then the other ones, like maybe I could talk to them too. And I wrote personalized emails for 5 people. 4 of them responded. Barbara responds with like thanks, but no thanks. But she was willing to have a call with me. And then that started a 9-month, or I guess 8 months of me like courting her to become CMO, Chief Strategy Officer of TMS, which worked out.
Well, I think it's because I know that, in your top 5 strengths, you have woo. And so give me some woo right now.
I
Give me
mean,
some woo.
I was just wooing you a second ago. Woo would be me talking about how amazing Barbara's work is, and so well, I will do some woo. So when so one of the things I did with Barbara was we had this great conversation, and she's like, "Look, thanks for reaching out. You seem like a nice guy, but I'm not interested." And then I just turned on the woo, and by the end of the call, like the woo, I don't remember what I said, but I just remember being like talking about the vision of the company and how we have, look over my left shoulder is a pink unicorn. Like we have our mascot's a pink unicorn. It stands for happiness in the mortgage industry. And so I'm painting this picture of what I had created. And by the end
Right.
of the conversation, Barbara's like, maybe I am willing to have more of a conversation with you about this. And so the woo was me. I was like, well, funny thing happens. Like I have to be in Troy, Michigan to meet with Flagstar, one of our lenders. And then, which by the way, was a completely manufactured meeting. Like there was no, I did not have that meeting, but I pretended like I did. I'm like, maybe we should grab dinner.
And I just remember like, I don't know, you're kind of like the guy really like, but you should date my girlfriend.
so I make up this fake meet. This, by the way, it takes like a couple months to make this happen. So this is
Yeah.
like February when we first talk. May is when I go up there, and we go to this. You recommended Phoenicia, which was this like Lebanese restaurant
The
in
best Lebanese food in America, I'm convinced.
delicious. I get there. I'm such a puppy dog. I get there like 15 minutes, 20 minutes early with my business partner. And Barbara's just such a boss. She shows up like 15 minutes late.
Some things never change, Darius.
And I'm sitting there and I'm sitting there and I'm such a warrior. I was like, if she like cancels on me after I just flew up here for a fake meeting, I'm gonna be so pissed.
And I remember you were like, hi, I'm at Phoenicia. Are you coming?
But all's well that ends well. So
Oh
it took some
boy, that is
time, but
so funny.
yeah, I was in. So by the way, the audience knows, I was in Paris that summer with my family when Barbara like officially said like hardcore yes that she was going to do it, and it made my summer. I was very happy.
Well, it was a defining moment in my life too. So, but it's cool to see how Woo has played a role in, driving your business. Um, when we started working together, and I think what was so fascinating to me was your mascot when you were at TMS was a pink unicorn, like a big, handsome, manly man like you. How in the world did that come about? Like, and why?
Um,
Talk about that.
yeah, so the mortgage industry, like it's 2025 now. I've been in it since 2000. So, and I'm 47. So I started when I was in my early 20s. The business was like booming up until '08, and then it was actually the cause of the worldwide great financial crisis. It like literally caused that. And when that happened, like the industry went from 400,000 employees to 100,000 in like literally 2.5 years. So if you can imagine an industry where it shrinks by 75%, whoever's left is
Unbelievable.
either like has no other options or is just stupid and stubborn enough to stick around. I was the latter of the two.
Right.
And but a lot of other people there were people that just didn't have other options. Like that's just all they knew. And what ended up happening was it was really hard to make money for a long time, and the industry became really toxic. I mean, super toxic. It was like this
Right.
real, and not only that, like it was kind of embarrassing to tell people you were in the mortgage business. Like I actually wouldn't tell people I was. I'd tell them I was in real estate finance. Because if you said mortgage, they would like just look at you with disgust.
Right.
I would
It's
see the
like
change.
right. It's like the lowest of the low,
No,
right? Like,
seriously, it was embarrassing. I
yeah.
remember being embarrassed to tell people I was in the mortgage business.
Which is
For
fun. It's funny because these are the people that help you realize the dream of homeownership. Like it's one of the most important purchases in your life. And it's so viewed as like a low life job. You know what I mean? Like a notch above,
the car
you
sales.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, back then though, everyone was losing their houses. So it was
So
different. It wasn't about home ownership then. It was about home losership, right?
right,
So
right.
yeah, so it was a really tough time, and the business took
Yeah.
culturally, the industry got destroyed.
Mhm.
And so I remember like like I had a lot of hard years, but I was always a culture warrior. Even like I've always loved building teams and getting people excited about stuff, and I've always been like a person that like obsesses about leadership, like since I was literally a teenager. Um, and I always did things that like got people together and got them fired up to produce a bigger outcome. And I was just like, this is something like I've naturally done my whole life. So when I got into
Yeah.
business, I'm like, well, of course, like you want people to show up and get fired up about the business. I just didn't know how to do it. Right. I didn't know that you like, I knew how to do it on my college wrestling team, but I didn't know how to do it in the kind of circumstances of a business. And so when I started learning about core values and core purpose, I met Simon Sinek in '09. And I remember I went up to him and told him about how bad the business was. And, he's like, pat me out. He was like, he wasn't,
That's when
no,
were you at MIT then?
it was, this was in New York City, but it was a spinoff of the MIT program.
Yeah.
And so,
Amazing.
so I met Simon in '09. And at that point I was already obsessing about core values. I'd learned about building core values for business.
Right.
I'd learned how to design them. I met Simon. And so I was already kind of like in my head shaping this like idea for a business. Fast
Mhm.
forward to 2013, excuse me. I started what's now, become the money source with my partners. And it was a business called Endeavor. And then we merged with TMS. But anyway, long story short, I sat down with my brother and Ali and I said, hey, we built our core values. And then I said, we got to build our core purpose. And so they said, well, what should it be? And I said, I think it should be growing happiness in the mortgage business. And they're like, and Ali, who Barbara knows, is like, it gives me a total sideways look, like, what in the F is this guy talking about? And I was like, look, this industry is filled with a bunch of beat up people. It's culturally
Right.
toxic.
Right.
Like we should be like this like mythical creature that doesn't exist in the business, like a unicorn, right? And it would be we grow happiness like with everything we do for homeowners, for our teams, for ourselves. Like I said, at the end of the day, that's what everybody wants. They just want to be happy.
Right.
And so he begrudgingly agreed to it. I think I told him it wasn't his choice. I said, if you want me involved, this is how we're going to do it. And
If
so
Ali were gonna pick it, what do you think it would have been?
it would have been like get shit done.
Right.
Like work fast and profitably.
Sharpen your pencils.
Yeah, totally. So a few months after that, my wife for Christmas made me a T-shirt, which was a pink unicorn T-shirt because my son was obsessed with My Little Pony. He was like 3 years old, and I wore it on we had casual Fridays back when that was a thing, and I wore my pink unicorn T-shirt to work.
Yeah.
And the team went nuts. Like they're like, oh my God, that's an amazing shirt. We want one. And so I said,
Right.
all right, well, if we hit our production goals for the month, I'll get you guys pink unicorn T-shirts. And then I'd said I want to have a mascot for the company that symbolizes our core purpose. But
Right.
anyway, long story short, we hit our goal, and then I got them. And then I said, well, if we hit our next goal, I'll get you guys pink unicorn tracksuits. And then I would send out emails every day like, let's call upon the power of the pink unicorn to hit our numbers. And it just it went viral in the business essentially.
Yeah.
And then the long story short was, it was a thing then, but it wasn't an official thing. I was at the NAM conference, National Association of Mortgage Brokers conference in Vegas.
Right.
And I looked at our trade booth, and all these boring ass trade booths look the same. Blue, gray, like picture of a stupid house on it. And I was like, God, these people suck. And I was like, you know what we should do? We should have a pink unicorn booth. Everything pink unicorn, like an 8-foot tall pink unicorn, pink unicorn T-shirts. We're gonna give away pink unicorn like lollipops to the people, and we're gonna build a doormat that sits in front of our booth that says the pink unicorn has arrived. And I did it, and everyone went crazy over it. And then that was it. It stuck at that point. I'm like, this is our mascot. This symbolizes
Amazing.
happiness in the business where there is none, and the rest is history.
Yeah. It's an amazing story, and it's such a great example of Inside Out.
In one hand, I have $1. Which hand do you think the dollar's in?
Right here.
This one? Even the left?
Right,
Yeah, my other right. The other right. The other right. Okay.
Oh man, really? push.
Yeah, bring it in.
Man.
You literally wrote the book on the power of building a strong culture with the core value equation. So if you were going to say like the one core value that is the most important in building a strong culture in organizations, is there a Lord of the Rings core value in your opinion?
Yeah, actually, there's a meta value, which is if you want to build a great culture, your core values should actually represent what you are. So whatever that is, truly are, because they're different strokes for different folks, right? So like it doesn't have to be fluffy and happy and we stand
Right.
for integrity and truth and transparency if that's not what you are. So it should be like people should be able to read your values and understand what you are. And
Right.
then they your team then gets to make a decision. Is that aligned with me or not? And if
Yeah.
it does, and when you do that really well, which the book kind of shows you how to design them and roll them out and manage them, so that is true, then what ends up happening is they're like, oh, like those are my people.
Right.
And by the way, like my people may not be your people, but at least people can understand what my people are by reading
Right.
them. So
And not everybody might be for you and you for them, but that's okay. It allows you to kind of help people self-select themselves into your organization.
right. So and what ends up happening is people filter in and filter out based off of self-selection, to your point. And if I get the right people filtering in, then the book talks about you get like invisible management, invisible growth. People just end up like they do what everyone does because that's who we are.
That's who you are at the
Yeah,
core.
and like there's
Yeah.
and it removes a lot of friction from the business because it's not like, why is Sally doing that thing that way? That's not the Ludwig plus way. Well,
Right.
because Sally's values aren't aligned with yours, so she's doing it the way she's doing them aligned to her values, and there's a misalignment there.
Right.
The other way around is all the Tommies are there, and Tommies all do it the Ludwig plus way. I don't have to say anything; they just like are one step ahead of me all the time because that's just how they naturally show up.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. Is there a particular core value that you feel best expresses your beliefs and your values, whether it's at TMS or what you're doing now, or when, the work with Rise, or is there something that's like kind of runs through all of the companies you've owned and run?
It's funny as you say that. Like it's changed a little bit as I get more attuned with what's a priority for me, right? And
Mhm.
my priorities have adjusted over the last 10 years. But I think the number one, I think when I think of the number one core value at TMS that is always front and center for me in any business I build is it was people matter, right?
Mhm.
And like if you want to do extraordinary things, you can't do it by yourself. And
Yeah.
and so for me, I love doing it with other people. I want to bring in people that are the most talented people. I want them to feel like they're a part of something greater than themselves. And like when I think of building organizations, at least the way I like to build them,
Yeah.
it has to be about bringing in the best people who are aligned, who have shared values, who want to build something special. And it comes down to the people because you can't do it by yourself. So people matter would be for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. It's interesting because and I know you've done a lot of talks, I have too, where, you ask people, and I think you taught me this, like everybody who has core values stand up. And then, can you recite them? Can your people recite them? And they start to sit down in the audience.
Yep.
A lot of leaders glaze over them or they just post them on the wall. And I thought what was so amazing, and having worked with you and learned so much from you, is that they really came to life and kind of fueled the business. Talk a little bit about, the TMS story, because I think it's such a great one where the core values, the pink unicorn really kind of, fueled the business, especially when you started out with a cypress tree, and the money source prior to TMS was called the money source, looked like, I don't know. I thought when you were stalking me, I was like, is he a check cashing company? Is he the money store? And everything was rates and FICO scores. And what the hell is escrow anyway? Right.
Yeah.
And during your wooing of me, you were different. You were talking about pink unicorns and growing happiness. So talk about how you leverage that and your BHAG and kind of lined up the core values of your company with how you revealed that ultimately to the world.
Yeah, so I think like one of the greatest things that you brought to the table that I see that you do with people you work with now as well is you said this to me when we were in the back room of Tommy Bahamas in New York City when
Where it was like a interrogation room.
yeah, it was like
You and Stavros. Let me ask you a few questions.
under like a bright
A
light.
spotlight in the back of Tommy Bahama. I'm like,
Dude,
where am
our
I?
origin story is so funny, mine and Barbara's.
Oh my
It
gosh.
really is funny. You said, like my job is to like you guys have gold laying all over this place, and my job is to like find the like pull these things that are already there and bringing them to life outside of the organization. And that was the thing that you did with your team that I thought was I learned so much from that. I'm like, oh, like we are all these great things. And so for me, I didn't know how to do. I'd never done that. I didn't know how to do that. I think most people don't think of business in that way, which makes you the genius that you are. Um, all I knew was, hey, I want to have a great culture. And there's this Mercedes has a thing where they call it customer one, right? Which is your external customer's experience is a reflection of your internal customer's experience. And so I just viewed our team as my customer. I'm like and they have an obligation to me and there's some accountability there and I pay them, right? But they're a customer. And if I can make them feel like they're growing and if I can make them like really pour into them as teams and get them to work together cohesively and really manage the culture that the external customer's experience should reflect better because they care. Like if I can't pay people to care like consistently, maybe like temporarily I can, but consistently I can't. They need to care about it the way, or at least in some capacity, how I care about it, which like I'm obsessed with it. And so the values, the core purpose, the BHAG, these are just tools, right? If you go through each one of them, like these are just best practices around how do you get people to show up and be a part of something greater than themselves and to perform extraordinary outcomes. If you look at great teams like the Patriots or, they're all people that are all aligned culturally that are pushing each other to do things they otherwise couldn't do. And for me, it was just thinking of it as like almost like a sports team in that way. And then because we became a glowy thing that was special, someone like a Barbara would leave a UWM, which is insane, to come work at a with a TMS, come work with me because she's like, oh, this feels special,
Yeah.
And so for me, like it's really leveraging these tools so that behaviorally in the business, operationally in the business, like our clients feel what the team feels because they're doing what they're supposed to do. And look, that you still have to like bring in the sales and manage sales management and manage the KPIs. There's an accountability side of this it's hand in hand with the fluffy stuff. But my take was, hey, I'm going to give you all the fluffy stuff. I check every one of those boxes. And then on the other side of this, I'm going to have this hardcore atmosphere around performance. And guess what? You have to do that too. And if you don't, you can't be here because performance is just as important. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate the conversation around fluff because it's going to be there in like overwhelmingly. And when I do that, the accountability on the other side, the hitting the metrics, the managing the KPIs, the meeting for a midday huddle on where you're at on your numbers, like that's table stakes. You got to do both. I'm doing my part. You do your part. And so, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how I think.
It's great. And I think, we really seized upon the whole core value system, the pink unicorn. And what was interesting is when you and I started working together, the world didn't know that. The inside world knew it. The outside world didn't know it. And I've always believed that the brands who truly own the hearts and minds of all their audiences, including your team, right? To your point, like, they have to buy into what you're about and demonstrate the brand's value and belief system, but so do your customers. And so do you believe that to be true, like the external world? And you kind of saw it firsthand because we kind of made that transformation, demonstrating and proving that this alignment of internal and external values and belief systems can line up and fuel growth.
Yeah. So one of the things I was always obsessed about the client experience. I just didn't know how to make them understand why we were doing it, which which it does something very special that was like an epiphany for me when we worked together. So I
Right.
was like always doing NPS, interviewing our clients, like managing it like I managed it the way I managed internal KPIs, like hardcore management of the client experience.
Right.
And then, but internally we're doing all this like fun stuff that they don't really know about. And what I realized with us working together is when you bring that inside out, it creates this, and the term you had used was like surround sound of
Mm-hmm.
like amplification of the brand, where people are like, oh, that's a really special company. Now they know why the service is good, right? They
Yeah.
understand the like, and people are like, people are like not like humans are captain obviouses. Like they need
Yeah.
to, like, you can't just like assume they're going to understand. Like you need to paint the picture for them, and the more you can paint the picture for them, the more they understand why they want to support you. So then you
Right.
become someone that they can brag about who they're doing business with.
Right.
And so what I saw, the thing that kind of blew my mind was once we amplified the brand externally, internally we were rock stars with our team. Like they loved us.
Right.
They're like
Yeah. I mean, you had people wearing, pink unicorn uniforms and tattoo pink unicorns on their arm. I mean, it was unbelievable.
yeah, it was really special. What ended up
Mm-hmm.
happening though was the minute we amplified the brand, we looked we
Mm-hmm.
were a good sized business, 1,000
Mm-hmm.
employees. We might as well have been 100,000 employees. Like we
Mm-hmm.
looked so much. And I thought we were like good size. We looked so
Right.
much bigger than we were. We were like going toe to toe with publicly traded companies after that. Like
Right.
the investment bankers viewed us as a player. Everyone was like, "Oh, that's a real company." Like we
Yeah.
were a player now. And my joke before that was, "We're the biggest mortgage company you've never heard of," right? And,
Yeah.
and that just wasn't true after Barbara got there.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think too often marketers are focused solely on what the customer wants and needs. Like Steve Jobs said, sometimes we have to tell the customer what they want and need. And given the influence of social media, we can no longer focus on the windsock of kind of changing consumer sentiment. And what Inside Out, or that revealing of who you are on the inside, is really leveraging the soul of the brand and the organization to create that deeper, more believable differentiator. And it's interesting because it's like Simon Sinek's why, right? The golden circles. Your why was growing happiness and helping a million homeowners or a million people achieve home ownership happiness, right? And then we needed to do the how. Like, how do you do that? Because
Right.
they don't believe you. They ultimately want to buy into what the brand is. And if you look at, conversely, you look at what's happening with Tesla right now, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's a great, amazing product, but people are rejecting the brand because of the values and beliefs of the founder or how he's behaving or whatever. And I think what was so fascinating is in your category where everybody was focused on rates and FICO scores, you were focused on happiness, right?
Yeah.
Which was just amazing. So as you think back on those days of like, how do you prove it? Like, how did you prove out grow happiness, and how did that translate to business success?
Yeah, kind of goes back to what I was talking about before. Like there's this part where you build a great culture and you operationalize the values, and there's different ways of doing that. And my book kind of is
Mhm.
like a manual on how you do all this stuff. And there's a word in Japanese I love, which is there's complexity and simplicity, and so which is shibui. And so I'm like, well, you got to make it easy, or else the team won't do it,
Mhm.
right? And so I think all too often people overcomplicate this stuff. One of the things I loved about the work we did, which was you created a language around the brand. And the values are,
Mhm.
I always say the values are the language of accountability in the organization. And what Barbara and her team did is they created a language for the brand. And that goes back to this creating simplicity around so people can understand it better, easier, more
Mhm.
organically, because that's how we communicate in life.
Right.
Um, so there was probably, if you wrote down a list of all the things we did to make it happen, it's a big list, but it happened in a prioritized order. And inevitably, if we were going to say that we were going to grow happiness, you needed to be able to measure certain things that meant that people were happy or happier. So
Right.
things like ENPS internally, NPS externally, like measuring NPS consistently, doing a CSAT
Right.
consistently, doing it by different channels, coming back internally, and if there was like an action plan to affect because there was an adverse reaction, how quickly did you fix problems, right? So for us, it was everything from, the greatest one I have is, we would measure the NPS of the client experience because we were a servicer, and our NPS for people in foreclosure was north of 70%. So like literally we're taking their home, and the reason for that was that internally, the conversations that you and I were having with the team was, hey guys, like, I don't know if you remember this. I don't know if you were there when I had this conversation. I think this was right before you came. I sat down with our servicing team when I was rolling out the core values with them. I said, guys, our average employee here makes $15 an hour. They have a hard life. Okay. This is an opportunity for them to show up every day and be a part of something that makes them feel special. And this is like 10 years ago.
Where they spend their time.
Yeah, exactly. And I said, and if you think that the other side of the phone is someone, no one calls their mortgage company because they just want to chit chat with somebody about bullshit, right? They're calling the mortgage company because there's a problem. Either something's wrong that they don't understand, or they can't make their payment. That's the only time you ever call your mortgage company. So we have an opportunity to do two things. Make sure that the person that's making $15 an hour answering a phone has a better than they would experience anywhere else, so that they feel like they're part of something greater than themselves, so that they then, when they're on the phone with someone that has a problem, tries to make them have a better day.
Yeah.
I said, and that's not just about having empathy and kindness and being a human to human. And I'm like, and if we do that, our clients are going to be like, man, I love this company.
Yeah.
And that's our job. And by the way, our job is still to collect on time, make sure we hit our KPIs, all this hardcore stuff, because the positive, fluffy stuff has to happen too. But I just treated them equally. I'm like, hey, they're both equally important. And I think most businesses, especially banking businesses, it's like 90%, 100, maybe 99.9%, the KPI, how fast did you get them on and off the phone, all this bullshit. And and point one, they lie and say they do the 1% or the 0.1%. And they really don't, because no one really cares about that stuff. And I think that by doing that, we ended up seeing stuff like what I just said, which is like, how the heck do you have an NPS score north of 70 for, I mean, we had that for turn downs when we would tell brokers that we wouldn't do their loans for them. We had a high 80
I remember
NPS.
it was like 98% on the foreclosure line. I mean, it's
crazy. Yeah, stuff
and
like
they're losing
that.
their home. But Darius, talk a little bit about how that translated into growth and external reputation and acquisitions and all the stuff that kind of came at us quickly.
Yeah, I mean, what ended up happening with that was we ended up, growing a lot.
Yeah.
In a time when it was hard to grow. We ended up, building up a retail channel. We actually had someone want to come and buy it from us. We sold the retail channel.
Remember, we had to go to the Virgin headquarters and the spaceship in London. They wanted to partner with us.
Yeah, like we literally almost like Virgin wanted to. We almost basically became Virgin Money. Like if it wasn't for like what happened with rates, that would have happened. Capital One came knocking. SoFi came knocking.
Yeah.
Virgin
it was amazing.
The Virgin thing broke my heart when they didn't do the deal with us. But literally, like, we made it to like the end of the road with doing a deal, and then rates collapsed, or rates went up. I think rates went vertical because of a taper tantrum.
Yeah.
And they got
sold out the originations. But
Yeah,
still, I
they got
mean,
cold
it was a
feet, yeah.
growth driver in a very, at the turn of a down market. So
yeah, it was insane. And the reality was the brand looked so like our internal self became our external self, and the world took notice.
Yeah, it was amazing. We did cool work.
Yeah.
Darius, do you drink lemonade?
I do not, but my kids do.
Oh, well, let me just say to you, you've met Trisha Walwork.
Yes.
Milo's lemonade, the absolute best, homemade tasting. Get some for your kids today. Milo's lemonade.
Are you doing product placement?
Yes, it's a product placement ad right now.
I love that. I did.
And Trisha, so buy some lemonade, honey. Buy some.
I got introduced to her
Y'all
from you.
in Texas need some lemonade that tastes like homemade.
So sweet
good
tea.
old fashioned.
I love that. That's so funny.
Yeah, and her sweet tea is the best. All right, I just a couple last things because I know you've got a hard stop. If you were a unicorn, what would your name be?
Oh, so so I'm going to Burning Man next week.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and I have and one of my you got to buy all this crazy stuff for it. And one of the things I had to buy was a bright magenta pink jacket, fur
You
jacket,
have to send me a picture.
fur. It's fur and it's magenta and it's bright pink, the same as my pink unicorn.
Oh my God.
My wife, it drives my wife crazy because she does not like the hot pink color, but it is my brand. It's my personal brand color now. So like
Yeah.
everything is every time I get a chance to peacock with hot pink, I do. So I don't know, like probably sparkles.
Oh gosh. Let's just give me last thought. What's next for you, Darius? What do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh man. I had a lot of thoughts about that while I was traveling. I took the summer off to travel. I got into private equity a couple years ago, and so I have two big ideas. Like one is I'm thinking about building a like people first private equity firm that focuses on investing in conscious leaders and helping them grow their businesses. So that's like high on my list of that I'm kind of like mentally working through right now.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
then I'm seriously thinking about like really growing my podcast like into like something much bigger. My podcast, it's a top podcast, but
Yeah.
it's been a hobby, and I've been doing it now for 5 years. Barbara and her team designed my creative for it back in 2019. And so, but I'm actually thinking like, hey, if I treated this like a business and did performance marketing and tried to did the things that real like professional podcasts do, like what could that become? So those are the things I'm kind of thinking about while I'm deciding on what's next.
Very cool. Well, thank you, Darius. This was so fun. Thank you for being my inaugural guest. I couldn't think of a better person to be the first guest on the show. You've been such a wonderful friend, an amazing leader, and your guidance and mentorship to me through the years has been invaluable. Your passion for building from within perfectly sets the stage for everything we'll explore on this podcast and what we've been doing together for quite a few years. I think it's been a bit of a masterclass in inside out thinking with you. So for those of you who are watching, if you have not read The Core Value Equation, I highly recommend you go order it on Amazon. It's an incredible book. And for those CEOs out there, if you need help in leadership and architecting your growth strategy and building amazing culture, I'd get in now before he starts his new company. So
Thanks, Barbara.
So love you, Darius. Have
Love
an
you too.
amazing day.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here, and I'm really pumped for your show.